Hi everyone, my name is Jaimie and I'm with the Atlantic County Library System, and today we will be learning a simple craft, how to make your own no-sew sachets. Now, a sachet is a scented bag that you can use in a drawer or anywhere else where you would like something to smell fresh. And we're going to be using lavender today, but there's 3 different types of sachets we're going to learn how to use. One is this ironed sachet pouch. The second is this I can't believe it's not stitched bag. And the third, if you don't have any fabric, is going to be how to use a paper envelope. Okay, I'll list the supplies for each craft. Okay, for this sachet you will need a lightweight fabric, or maybe a felt, something that can easily be cut with normal household scissors. You will need iron-on sewing tape. This is heat sensitive. You can get this at most craft stores or you can buy it online. If you don't have any of that, you could always use a hot glue gun. And you will need something to scent the sachet. You can use dried lavender. This is some lavender from my garden, and I've already plucked the leaves off and put it in this little takeout container. Or if you don't have access to lavender, you could try bath salts or Epsom salts. It doesn't have to be lavender, it can be any scent that pleases you. And of course, for this one you will also need an iron. This is our most difficult sachet, but it's still very easy to make. It's a pillow style sachet, so you will need a front piece of fabric and a back piece of fabric. My example matches. That's just because I like the purple gingham. It's very easy to cut a straight line with it. You don't have to. You can have a different pattern on each side, so that's what we'll do. If you want to lay out your fabric, make sure for the back that the picture side is down, because it's going to be the inside of your sachet. And your top facing fabric is facing up. And at this point you don't have to be real neat. You can just line it up, and this is where the ruler comes in. You're going to follow the path of the paper with a piece of chalk, so you can just wipe it right off. You're going to draw the shape of your sachet. You can use a pattern for this that you make out of paper if you want to, but it's such an easy craft you can just use the ruler. So let's see, how big do I want this to be? I think I'm going to do a 6-inch square. So I'll just draw out my 6-inch square using the guidelines right on the gingham. You can use any kind of fabric for this that you like, but it tends to work best with a lighter weight cotton, something that's easily cut. So here's your 6-inch square. All right, I'm just going to leave that top edge. Now, and you can cut these out together at the same time. Let's not worry about that little guy yet, because that'll be the top. So now you have 2 pieces of fabric. Okay, what you want to do is open it up, lie them inside out, inside out. We'll trim that. This is iron-on fabric tape. Very easy to use, but if you don't have it, you could use a hot glue gun. So what I'm going to do is make sure that it goes end to end and covers this whole thing, because it's going to seal where I iron it. So I'm just going to try not to have it overlap too much. And I'm only going to do the bottom, because this is the bottom, and these are the two sides. And we're going to leave that top inch alone. Don't put any there. In fact, we'll trim that back a bit. All right. All right, then just lay the other piece of fabric on top. Then this is the fun part. I have my iron set for cotton. You could use it on the steamer setting, but you certainly don't have to. I do not have it set for steam. Just make sure you have the ends lined up. The fabric's a little wrinkled, so it's escaping me right now, but just lay it down. And don't worry about anything that hangs out. We can always trim it with the pinking shears. Just pass the iron over it gently. You'll start to feel it fuse underneath. It just melts the two pieces of fabric together. Just leave that envelope shape so you can fill it. Right. And just check your edges. If they're not sealed, you might want to just run the iron over again. But don't worry too much about it. You want to make sure it's sealed so that your filling doesn't leak out. Okay. That's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to use dried lavender from my garden. I picked it, made little bunches and dried it a few days ago, and it's ready to go. I'm just going to open up my pouch and just scoop some big spoonfuls in here. Now, if you don't have dried lavender, you can also use bath salts or Epsom salts. You can be creative with what goes in here, just as long as you like the scent. Don't fill it all the way up. You don't need much. Just shake it down to the bottom. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is take our interface, or fuse netting rather, make sure it's the right width. Okay. You want to make sure that it lines up with the edge of your top fabric. All right. And as we did before, we're just going to iron that down. Trying not to twist my fabric. Okay. Maybe you want to flip that over and just make sure it's stuck. That's sealed. Okay, so now what you can do is you can either use regular scissors to trim it, or I like to use pinking shears because they have such a cute edge, lots of different patterns. You just cut right through. Keep in mind your fuse net goes to about here, so as long as you only cut the outside edge, you won't break that seal, you won't have a problem with your lavender getting out and scattering around your sock drawer. Let's see here. We're just going to trim all the edges to give it that cute little shape. You can see it a little bit better if I use this side. It's also easier to cut along gingham because it already has straight lines. I like to make my triangles line up on the end. Come on. If you have a little extra clump of fuse net, sometimes you might have a lump when you cut into it. Just one more side. All right, and that's your sachet. Now, if you do have embroidery floss and you don't mind doing a little sewing, you can always put a little simple stitch border that runs around it. but I'm not going to do that today since we're focusing on no-sew options. But that's all you need. You can make a pile of these and give them away as gifts. Mother's Day is coming up. You could give one to your mom. That's your sachet. Thank you. Now for this sachet, you will need fabric, a stapler, a ruler, pencil, chalk, household scissors or pinking shears, some string, twine, or ribbon, maybe a hot glue gun, and your scented materials. So either you'll need the lavender or the bath salts. Now this sachet is a bag that you can make. It looks like you sewed it, and if you can hand sew, of course, please feel free to do that. You can sew, but if you don't sew, you can do this using your simple household stapler. What you're going to do is start with a piece of fabric and lay it so that it's inside out. This is the inside of the bag. It's usually easier to see this side of the fabric because it's lighter than this side and you can see your markings. So what you're going to do first is draw out where you want your bag to be. And this edge is straight, so I'm going to leave it alone. And so's that. We can use these two edges. I just really need to trim this one. So I think I want my bag to be 6 inches wide. So I'm just going to run 6 inches. And sometimes the fabric has a print and you can work with that for a straight edge. If it's a little crooked, it might show because you're going to have a seam on this one. So you do want to be rather precise with your measurements. And then I'm going to just square it off. This one might be a slightly different shape than my example. All right. So let's just trim this. Notice we're only using one piece of fabric. Okay. Now, take your ruler again and make about a 1/4 inch in. Just draw a line. This is going to be for your seam allowance. This is where you're going to staple. Okay. You can use chalk, but the pencil's easy for me to see on this. I'm just going to use a pencil. And do the same thing to the other side. All right. But not the top or the bottom. Now turn it like this, because you're working inside out, and fold your bag. This fabric's a little bit shorter than it was when I made the example, so my bag will have a little bit more of a square shape, but that's okay. Now see that staple line? This is where you can hand sew if you want to. But as I said, this is a no-sew sachet. So take your stapler and line your staple up over the line, and then just place them close together, just like stitches would be. I'm going to staple very neatly, because if it's not neat, you'll have a lumpy looking bag. That staple went askew. Oh well. Turn it over. You can, if the staple is really no good, you can always take it out and start again. And make sure you get right up to the edges, because that's the corners where you might have a little gap. You don't want that. You'll have bath salts all over your sock drawer. Okay. Staple. Try to keep your fabric straight. nice and neat. Just leave a little gap at the top. All right, so this is your seam. That was quick. Now, being careful not to break the staples, turn your bag right side out. Get those corners. Okay, so now you have a little pouch. And if you stapled neatly enough, oh, I like the shape of this one. It looks just like you sewed it. You shouldn't see any gaps. Okay. So let's see here. I've been using the lavender. I'll use the bath salts for this one. So I'm just going to put a spoonful or two, depending on how strong you want the scent. I'll do 2. All right. And you say, well, how am I going to sew up the top or staple it? The staples will show. Oh, that's when you need the twine. You can use twine, string, ribbon, anything you have. And you're just going to, let's see, I'll work backwards. Gather it up at the top like a little gift bag. All right, give it a little tie. The great thing about this design is that you can refill the bag. If you notice that your lavender doesn't have much of a scent anymore, you can always just untie it and put something new in there. Let's just trim that little runner. And there, it's that easy. Now, what if you don't have fabric? That's okay, you can still make a sachet. All you'll need for this last one is a paper envelope, a push pin or a sewing pin or a needle, a pencil, a regular glue stick, not a hot glue stick, or Scotch tape, and again, your scented material. This is lavender or bath salts. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so what if you don't have any fabric at home? Well, that's okay. Chances are you do have a greeting card envelope. All this is a plain paper envelope that we've drawn a picture onto, and then we just use a push pin. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to do that. So take your greeting card envelope. I already got started, and we'll make our flower. And maybe we'll just try to make that center nice and round. And then you just draw your petals on, right? Easy. Just take your time, have fun. Make sure that your shape is kind of simple. If it's too complex, it'll be difficult to punch the hole. And then maybe your flower has a stem. I'm drawing upside down. And then give it a leaf. And okay, that was the hard part. Now, open up your envelope a little bit so you don't have holes on both sides. And maybe give it some air. And then just take the push pin and just very gently start poking holes slightly apart from each other so that you don't tear the paper. You're just going to punch straight in and out. Okay? And you're going to trace your entire shape this way. Just take your time with it. And I'm just going all the way through the paper. That way we'll be able to smell the lavender when we put it in there. You shouldn't make the holes too big or some of the lavender might leak out and get in your drawer. So we're just going to trace the whole shape. All right. I think you get the point. When you're done with that, it'll look something like this. You'll notice all of the pencil line is covered. Now you can erase the pencil lines if you don't want them to show. And then the next step is very simple. All you do is open your envelope, And I'm going to use the dried lavender, but you could certainly use the bath salts if you want a stronger scent. I'm just going to put a spoonful or two. Let me get this open again. Let's just put some spoonfuls. Just enough that you have the strength of scent that you want. Shake it out. You don't have to fill the whole envelope. And then you can either use glue stick or Scotch tape to seal it shut. So I'm just I like the glue stick. So I'm just going to glue it. And you can punch a picture on each side if you want, but it'll be like this when you're done. See? If you don't have an envelope, but you do just have regular paper, you can cut an envelope, do the same thing, and after you fill it, leave the top unglued. After you fill it, you just get your glue stick in there. Seal that. It's the same thing. Made an envelope. See? That was easy. Thank you. So thank you for joining us for our sachet crafts. This has been a craft session for the Atlantic County Library System. If you like this video, please go ahead and like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more about the Atlantic County Library System, please click on the link below. Thank you and have a nice day.